There's a number you've never been told about. Not your salary, not your savings rate, not your net worth. A different number. One that determines whether you spend the rest of your life building something real or just maintaining the illusion that you already did. Most people cross 35 without ever learning what that number is. And by the time they feel its absence, the window has already started closing. You did the things, the degree, the career moves, the promotions that came with longer hours and better titles, and the quiet promise that everything was heading somewhere important. You're not struggling. That's what makes this so disorienting. You can pay your bills. You can go to dinner without checking your account first. You're not broke. But you're not free. And there's a pressure sitting somewhere behind your ribs, something you can't quite name, but can't quite ignore. Like the conveyor belt you're standing on is moving, but you're no longer sure it's moving toward anything. Here's what nobody tells you about being over 35 and not wealthy. It's not that you failed. It's that the strategy you've been following was never designed to make you wealthy in the first place. It was designed to make you functional, employable, reliable, comfortable enough to keep showing up, but never so free that walking away became a real option. And the most dangerous part is that it worked. You are comfortable. You are reliable. And you are more dependent on your next paycheck than you were at 25. Not less. Think about what actually happened every time your income went up. Not what you planned to do with the raise, what you actually did. The first one felt like breathing room. The second one felt like permission. By the third or fourth, you weren't even making conscious decisions anymore. The money came in and your life restructured itself around it automatically. The rent went up because you moved somewhere that matched how you felt about yourself. The car changed because the old one started feeling like a contradiction. Subscriptions accumulated, memberships materialized, and the baseline cost of being you crept upwards so steadily that you never even noticed the floor beneath you rising. That floor. That's the thing that matters more than anything else in this entire conversation. Because your income is just a number on a screen. Your floor is what you cannot drop below without feeling like your life is coming apart. And every year since your mid-20s, that floor has been quietly climbing. Not because your actual needs grew, because your identity did. You became someone who lives a certain way, eats at certain places, drives a certain thing, lives in a certain kind of neighborhood. And now, the cost of being that person isn't optional. It's structural. It's who you are. Something you hear in the next few minutes is going to contradict almost everything the financial world has taught you about building wealth. And I need you to hold one question while you listen. A question I won't answer until the very end. If wealth isn't about how much money you make, and it isn't, then what exactly have you been building for the last 10 years? There's a way to see all of this that makes it impossible to unsee. Picture two boats, both crossing the same ocean, same wind, same waves, same distance to the far shore. The first boat is large, impressive from the outside. Polished hull, tall masts, wide decks. It looks like the kind of vessel that should cross any ocean without difficulty. But below the waterline, the hull is loaded. Cargo brought on board at every port along the way. Furniture that seemed important at the time. Equipment that felt like an upgrade. Every year, more was added. And now the boat sits low in the water. It still moves, but it needs more wind just to maintain speed. And when a storm comes, all that weight beneath the surface becomes a liability. The boat can't turn quickly. It can't adjust course. If something breaks, the crew is so busy managing the cargo that nobody can fix the engine. The second boat is smaller, plain. Nobody would photograph it. but it sits high in the water because there's almost nothing below the surface. It's fast, not because it has a bigger engine, because it carries less. When the wind shifts, it adjusts immediately. When a storm hits, it rides over the waves instead of plowing through them. And when the captain decides to change direction entirely, the boat responds almost instantly, like it was waiting for permission. The first boat is what most people's financial lives look like after 35. High income, high overhead, almost no maneuverability. The second boat is what freedom actually looks like, and the distance between the two has almost nothing to do with how much wind they're catching. Now here's where this becomes personal, because you're probably in that first boat right now, and you didn't load it with junk. You loaded it with reasonable decisions. The apartment isn't extravagant, it's appropriate. The car isn't flashy, it's practical for someone at your level. The school for the kids isn't elite, it's just good. None of these decisions felt reckless when you made them. That's exactly the trap. They all felt responsible. They felt like what someone your age and income should be doing. And every single one of them added weight below the waterline. Once the boat gets heavy enough, something shifts in how you steer it. You stop sailing toward where you want to go. You start sailing to avoid anything that might rock you. You stay in the job that drains you because it keeps the boat moving forward. You avoid the risk that excites you because it might shift the cargo. You negotiate carefully, speak carefully, live carefully, because you cannot afford a wave you didn't see coming. Your entire posture shifts from building towards something to protecting what's already on board. And that is not a wealth building posture. That is a maintenance posture. That's the posture of someone who has already spent everything they're going to earn this month before the month even starts. Here's what makes 35 different from 25. And this is the part most people don't understand until it is very nearly too late. At 25, time is so abundant it's invisible. You don't think about it. You can make mistakes, waste entire years, change direction completely, and the math still works because compound growth has decades to correct your errors. At 35, the math shifts. Not dramatically at first, but measurably. The cushion disappears. The margin for error shrinks. And every year that your floor stays high is a year the math becomes harder to reverse. This isn't motivational pressure. This is arithmetic. And the arithmetic doesn't care how intelligent you are or how hard you're willing to work. It cares about two things: how much surplus you generate each month, and how many months that surplus has left to compound. After 35, you cannot change the second variable. It is fixed. It is shrinking by 1 month every single month, whether you act or not. The only thing still within your control is the first variable, your surplus, the gap between what you earn and what your life requires you to spend. And this is where everything you've been told about money gets turned inside out. Because the financial industry has spent your entire adult life telling you that the way to grow your surplus is to grow your income. Earn more, get promoted, start something on the side, monetize your skills. And that's not wrong, exactly, but it's incomplete in a way that quietly ruins people. Because most people who increase their income increase their floor at the same speed. The surplus never actually grows. The boat just gets bigger and heavier while catching slightly more wind. And the net effect on freedom is exactly zero. The people who actually build wealth after 35, and they exist, they're not rare, they just never talk about it, they do something that looks almost irrational from the outside. They stop raising the floor. Some of them lower it. Not dramatically, not in a way that draws attention. They just quietly stop upgrading. They keep the car another 4 years. They stay in the apartment when everyone around them expects them to buy. They cancel the subscription they forgot they were paying for. Small moves, ordinary moves, moves that would bore anyone who was watching. But the surplus opens, and it flows somewhere nobody sees, somewhere boring, somewhere that compounds in silence, month after month, while they go on living a life that looks completely unremarkable from the outside. And here's where the feeling changes. Because there's a moment, and it's not dramatic, it's almost mundane, when you realize that the things you thought you needed, you actually chose, and that you could choose differently. It usually starts with one expense, something you've been paying for so long it feels like a law of nature. Maybe it's the car payment you've had continuously since you were 23. Maybe it's the apartment that costs $1,500 more per month than the one you'd be perfectly content in. Maybe it's a recurring charge you forgot about 3 months ago that is still quietly draining your account. You look at it one day and something clicks. This isn't a need. This is a performance. And the performance has a cost that extends far beyond the number on the statement. When you stop performing, something strange happens to your psychology. The background hum of financial anxiety, the one you've carried so long you think it's just what being an adult feels like, gets quieter. Not because you suddenly have more money, because you need less. And needing less changes how you sit in every room you enter, how you respond to pressure, what you're willing to tolerate, what you're willing to say out loud. You stop being the person who agrees to things because they can't afford not to. You start being the person who agrees only when they actually want to. And now there's a number you need to know. The one I mentioned at the very beginning. It's not a savings target. It's not a net worth milestone. It is the monthly cost of your non-negotiable life. The real cost. Not the version you tell yourself. The actual number that leaves your accounts every single month before you've made a single free choice. Rent or mortgage. Insurance. Debt minimums. Utilities. The memberships you'd feel embarrassed canceling. The car you'd feel ashamed to downgrade. Add it up honestly, and you'll find a number that probably horrifies you. Because that number is your cage. Everything you earn up to that number is already spoken for. It belongs to the life you've built around yourself. And everything above it, that thin margin, that sliver, is the only money that is actually moving your life forward. For most people over 35, that margin is shockingly small. Not because they don't earn enough, because the floor ate everything. Let's make this concrete. Take 2 people, both 36, both earning $110,000 a year. Same city, same tax bracket. Person 1 spends $89,000. Normal life. Nice apartment, reliable car, eats out a few times a week, takes a vacation, has the streaming services and the gym membership and the wardrobe that updates with the seasons. After taxes and spending, they save about $700 a month. That's not nothing, it's just slow. Person 2 earns the exact same $110,000 but spends $52,000. Not deprivation, just different choices. Older car, smaller apartment in a decent neighborhood, cooks most meals, goes out but not by default. They save about $2,800 a month. After 10 years, at 46, Person 1 has roughly $120,000 saved, maybe $140,000 with market returns. They feel like they're building something, slowly. Person 2 has somewhere around $480,000, possibly more. But here's where the gap stops being about dollars and starts being about something money cannot directly purchase. Person 2, at a monthly spend of $4,300, now has roughly 9 years of living expenses saved. If they stopped working tomorrow, absolutely nothing about their daily life would change for close to a decade. Person 1, at their spend rate, has about 15 months. What does 9 years of runway actually buy you that 15 months doesn't? This is the part that people who've never experienced it struggle to understand, and the part that people who have can never forget. It buys you the ability to say no. Not as a philosophy, as a financial position. Someone offers you a deal that feels wrong, and you walk away without running calculations in your head. Your company announces layoffs, and everyone around you is paralyzed with fear. You feel something different. Not joy, just the absence of panic. Your manager asks you to do something that contradicts your judgment, and you can actually disagree, out loud, without your mortgage flashing behind your eyes. Wealth is not money. Wealth is the number of bad options you can survive without fear. That single sentence reframes everything that came before it, because it means the person earning $80,000 with a floor of $30,000 is wealthier, genuinely wealthier, than the person earning $200,000 with a floor of $190,000. And if that sounds wrong, it's only because you've been measuring wealth the way the world taught you to measure it, by what flows in, not by what is required to flow out. Here's what happens when someone truly absorbs this, not just intellectually, in their body. Their relationship with money inverts. They stop chasing higher income and start chasing wider margin. They stop measuring success by what they can earn and start measuring it by what they can endure. And that shift, quietly, almost invisibly, gives them something that most high earners will never acquire. Options. Options to take the project because it's interesting, not because they need the invoice. Options to leave the city, change industries, take 6 months off, start something with no guaranteed outcome. Options to sit in silence during a negotiation while the other person fills the uncomfortable quiet with concessions. Because they have something the other side doesn't: time and patience. The person with patience doesn't win by pushing harder. They win by needing less, by being willing to outlast. In any negotiation, financial or professional or personal, the ability to wait is the most expensive advantage that exists. You cannot buy it with income. You can only build it with margin. And this connects back to something I said in the first minute that probably didn't fully land yet. The idea that you are more dependent on your next paycheck now than you were at 25. At 25, your floor was nearly nothing. You could sleep on a friend's couch, eat cheap food, own almost nothing, and survive on a fraction of what you earn today. Your options were nearly infinite because your requirements were nearly zero. Then you spent a decade raising the floor, one responsible decision at a time, and you traded all of those options for comfort. Not for wealth, for comfort. And comfort, when it becomes structural, when it hardens into the minimum acceptable standard of your life, becomes the most expensive thing a person can own. Because you're not paying for it once. You're paying for it every single month. With money. And with freedom. For the rest of your life. But here's where people destroy everything. And I want to be precise about this because it is the exact mistake that keeps intelligent, high-earning people working until 67, while someone with half their salary walks away free at 51. The mistake happens at the moment of clarity, right here, right now. You feel the shift. You see the floor for what it is. You understand the math. You feel the margin beginning to open for the first time in years. And it feels like power, like discovering a cheat code everyone else missed. And in that feeling of power, you reward yourself. Not with something reckless, with something reasonable. A slightly better apartment because you've been so disciplined. A newer car because the old one has 140,000 miles on it. A trip somewhere because you've earned it. And the floor rises, quietly, invisibly, one perfectly reasonable decision at a time. The margin closes, the window narrows, and you're back exactly where you started. Except now, you're 38 instead of 35, and the math has 3 fewer years of forgiveness left. This is not a single decision you make once. It's a posture you hold. It's not about cutting everything and living in deprivation. It's about refusing to let the floor rise faster than your surplus can grow. About understanding that every dollar above your real needs that goes toward maintaining an image is a dollar that cannot compound. And every dollar that cannot compound is time. Time you will spend working that you did not have to spend. At 25, that trade is invisible. At 35, you begin to feel it in your chest. At 45, you understand it completely. And at 55, you either have the freedom or you don't. The distance between those two outcomes was never about income. It was about the floor. It was always about the floor. Remember the question from the beginning? If wealth isn't about how much you make, what have you been building? You've been building a floor. A beautiful, reasonable, carefully constructed floor that rises every year and requires every dollar you earn to maintain. That is what a decade of doing everything right actually produced. Not freedom, a higher floor. And the quiet feeling you can't name. The one that sits behind your ribs at 2 a.m. when everything is supposedly fine. That's not confusion. That's recognition. Some part of you already knows that the floor is the problem. Already knows you've been building the wrong thing. Already senses that the way forward doesn't run through earning more. It runs through requiring less. And that right now, at this exact age, in this exact moment, is the last time the math will be this forgiving. Not because someone is trying to frighten you into action, because compound growth has a horizon, and you are standing at the edge of it. The window is still open, but it is not waiting. It never was. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. This helps me to continue to create videos like this. Thank you. See you soon.